Exciting time for me. New soldering station. I'm kind of surprised that this is smaller than I was expecting. Vacuum, I wonder if that does anything. I didn't notice that in the ad. Anyways, I've been keeping my eye on this one for a while. I think this came out like a year ago with a combo unit, hot air station, and T15, T12 style soldering iron tip. Now I have been using this little hot air station here for probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years now. Didn't pay very much for it. I think it was only $60. I didn't have very high expectations, but it turned out to be a pretty dang handy little tool to have. Now this is, I believe, a 700 watt model. For doing really large style work, like say if I have to remove a BGA GPU, I have to use my 1000 watt hot air station, because this guy just doesn't quite have the power for the big stuff, but it sure is convenient for the small stuff to just pick it up, ready to go, use it and throw it back in the cradle when you're done. One of the couple of complaints with this one here is like the cord is definitely on the stiff side, so it's a little kind of always in your way. Now this one here, it looks like it's the exact same handle, but the cord is softer feeling, and it looks like it's kind of bends and forgives a little bit easier. You can see this is more of a shinier, stiffer plastic, and this is more of a silicone feel to it. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a nice improvement. Now these stations on top, these are the T12 OLED soldering stations, which I've had for a couple of years now, and I really love them. A couple of years back, one of the viewers, Mike, kind of shamed me into trying out a different soldering iron, because I was originally using 900M style tip soldering stations, which Hacko kind of normalized the 900M tips. All the Chinese knockoff stations, well, a lot of them use that style anyways, but that's the style where the tip slides over the heating element. But with a T12, this is a cartridge style where the heating element and tip are all one, so it's much better at getting the heat out to the tip. Plus, with the T12 style tips, you have a nice assortment of tips you can buy, and they quickly and easily just slide in and out. The speed that the T12 tips heat up at is night and day difference to the old 900M style. I think it only takes about 12 seconds to go from cold room temperature to soldering to melting solder in like 12 seconds, and that's just huge improvements over the old 900M style stuff. Let's see what all we get in the bag. Oops. Oh, okay, I guess they did send the adapter for this cord, but this is just your standard PC cord, so we don't need that. And here's the cradle for the hot air. And I'm a little disappointed that they didn't send like the micro quick change style handles with. These stations also came with this collar style, so to change the tips you have to, come on, remove the collar to slide the tips in and out. But with the quick change micros, you just give them a pull, and it's kind of a bummer, but I can probably reuse my micros on the new station. I'll check the pinouts, because there's differences between the DXCHMEI wiring pinouts, and then this is a KSGER, I believe. You know, it doesn't even say. Maybe it's not. One thing I noticed right off the bat when comparing the two different style of wands with the quick release versus the collar style, overall length isn't that different from the very tip to the very end, but where you grip to tip, the grip to tip is way different, so it's going to take some getting used to, but I'll probably end up switching this over. This new one is not compatible with my old one. This is a 4-pin, I believe, or this is a 5. I think this is, yeah, this is a 5-pin, which I think is the KSGER branded tips use, where my older stations were the different brand, which only are a 4-pin. Here's what the display looks like when it's turned on. I'll compare it to the other OLED stations. It's a little more green than it is blue like the old one. Let me get zoomed right up in there. Now, I did already go into the menus and change it so that the soldering station isn't in sleep mode when it's first turned on, because when I first got it, it defaulted to sleep, but I changed it to default to just go ahead and run. Now I'm going to hope that the sleep mode works. I really like the automatic sleep mode in these that sense movement in the handle. So I'll probably let it go to sleep, which I did set down to 10 minutes instead of a half an hour. That was a default. In the sleep mode, I'll pull it up in the menu. It does let you go by the minute, whereas this other older OLED station, I think, was in blocks of 5. So I'm going to set it to 1 minute and see if it goes to sleep. It has just gone into standby mode. So if I shake the handle, it should wake up. So the temperature is dropping. So if I wake it up, it should, yep, there it goes to running, and the temp is going back up. Nice. Right now it's in screensaver mode. I don't know if that's really necessary. I could probably turn that off, but it has a little power indicator up here in the corner. It's kind of fun to watch to see if I can get a little bit better view of that. So if I stick, there's a power indicator right there. If I stick this in my wet sponge, you'll see the power jump out, and then it quickly tapers back off again. One thing to note with KSGER programming, the sleep and standby always trip me up, because what I think should be sleep is actually standby, and what is standby is actually sleep. So when you set the times, you don't want to overlap the standby over the top of the sleep, because then it won't wake up. So just pay attention to that. Now I'm going to do the speed test. So right now it's cold, it's room temperature. And if you're still using the old 900M style tip, this is what you're going to notice the most, is how quickly it gets up to melting temp, whereas the old 900Ms, you have to turn them on and then go walk away and come back later, and then they're ready. But this should take about 12 seconds. All right, so I got some solder on there, or solder. I'm going to click it on, and you can count to yourself in your head. Yep, there goes about 12, 13 seconds, and it melted the solder off of there. And there's the beep to tell me it's up to temp. Besides just fast heat up times, the efficiency of the tip design is also good for soldering like large ground planes or large connectors. And this is probably a 60 watt iron too. I gotta double check that, but it just does a better job at heating up and keeping those larger conductors that you're trying to solder hot, so they actually take solder. Let's try my fattest tip I got. This bad boy right here. I'm not going to bother putting the collar on. Well, actually, I can't put the collar on because that won't slide over, but that's okay. It'll stay in there. Okay, I'm going to turn this on. We'll just see how quickly we can heat this big thing up. You can see in the power indicator sitting at 100%. And we're getting close to 200 degrees C. It's around 2, okay, right about now it should start to melt, although maybe the heat that it's measuring is maybe here more and not at the end, but oh, there it goes. Yep. Okay, it's melting. ready to solder. Here I'm going to check the wattage of the heating element. So I'm going to turn on the hot air. So a little green indicator comes on when the hot air is ready to go. And I'm going to turn the temp up to max, 550. And then you click in for fan speed, and that's at 100. I'm going to pull it off the cradle. And here, if we watch the kilowatt, we will see its wattage. So with the hot air maxed out, I'm only getting 195 watts. That cannot be right. It should be over 500, I would think. Usually these styles are around 700 watts. Don't worry about the air. It's only saying that because it's unplugged from the soldering iron. But as you can see, it's struggling to get up to melting temperature. So I'm wondering if they sent me a 220 volt unit instead of a 120 volt unit, because that power is about a quarter of what it should be. So I think they sent me the wrong voltage. There's no indication on here. There's no sticker or anything. There's no switch to say if it's 110 or 220. The ad on the website says it has a range of 110 to 240 volts, but it doesn't show a different SKU number for that. I can believe the little switching power supply can probably handle either or, and the 24 volts that's regulated that goes to the wand won't care if the input is 110 or 240 because it's going to be regulated, but the heating element is going to run at line voltage, not regulated voltage. So that's going to matter, and I think I got the wrong one. I'm going to see if there's any indication on the inside on what voltage model this thing is supposedly supposed to be. Okay, so AC goes in here. Oh, you know what? I see 220 volts stamped right in there. Let's see if we can get a view in there. It's kind of hard to see because it's all black on the inside, but there's a 220 volt mark right there next to the AC in plug. Maybe they sent me the wrong one. Should we see if it's grounded properly? Here's a ground lug going to the yellow wire, which goes to the power supply. And then from there, who knows where it goes. I'm going to see if it's chassis grounded. I'm going to get my little meter ready here. I'm on the ground pin, and come on. Well, ground is going to the power supply, but it's not tied to the chassis. How about one of the other pins? Oh, come on now. Well, it looks like I'm going to have to end this review on a bit of a sour note. I wasn't able to confirm by taking the heating element apart if this is 110 or 220, but judging by the power it's consuming, it's pretty safe to say this is a 220 volt heating element. So thankfully it's not super hard to get into this handpiece to change out the heating element, so I'm going to try to get the right one on the way. And again with the ground, come on China, we've been over this. Why are you not grounding your chassis? It's a shame because this thing has a ton of potential. It's got lots of good things going for it, but I'm going to have to end this one while it's in pieces. And look at this too. If you follow, so here's the ground, the main, earth house ground. You can see it comes into this yellow wire, which goes to the center of the power supply, so everything looks good so far. But if you can see this in the video, you can see the track. So here's a hot track and a neutral track. In the middle, there's nothing there. There's no track. It just ends. The ground just does nothing. And it's also showing with, you know, just checking for continuity through that center ground pin. You know, if I try to dig into a good solid ground, even a screw, it's not grounded. Why? I don't understand why. I mean, it works, it functions without the chassis being grounded, but there's two things that chassis grounding does. It's first thing it does is safety, so it can't become live or hot. If it were to become live or hot, it would automatically trip the breaker if it was properly grounded and could potentially save your life. And also, you can't build up a static charge if the metal is constantly being tied to ground. So there's two advantages to being properly grounded. And man, I don't know what to say about this one. It just sucks because it's so cool everywhere else. It's just, you know, why do Chinese tools have to do that? They're like so close to being great and they just have to screw something up. Well, maybe I'll continue this one some other day after I get the right parts. Also worth noting, for whatever reason, a lot of these OLED stations don't come with a stand. So keep that in mind. If you're going to go in this direction, you'll need to pick up a stand or use an old stand. I'm just using my old stands. And also, this kit did not come with any tips. So get yourself a nice variety of the T12/T15 Hakko style tips. I like the J tips myself. And man, I just wish they could make like a little machined aluminum stand on the other side to match the face, you know. So they have the stand on one side for the hot air. They should make one on the other side for the soldering wand. And it's so close to being really good. So I might have to continue this some other time. And I'm noticing while I'm sitting here, this vacuum hole goes nowhere and does nothing. It's just a hole that says vacuum. I'm not sure what that's about. Anyways, I'll have a link down below. And we'll see you next time.